Roy Ball. We have a special guest in the show tonight from Couz's Corner, our boy Couz. Welcome into the show, sir.
What's
And
up,
if
gentlemen?
you love college football, gentlemen, you're definitely in the right place. So before you forget, smash that red subscriber button, like our videos, and don't forget to ring the bell so you don't miss one moment. Hall of Fame college football. Couz, my man, how you been, man? It's been a while.
It has been a while, man. Thanks for having me on.
Good to see you, my guy.
Good to see you.
Good to
Hey,
see you
man.
guys.
Yeah.
We were I was watching a little bit of your show the other day and was enjoying this. I'll pop it up here for everybody else.
Are the SEC and the Big Ten flat out chickens? Bark, 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 bark. Are they afraid of the Big 12 and the ACC, or maybe even the G5? Are they afraid they may lose their power? Is that why they're doing what they're doing to the college football playoff? That's what we're going to talk about in this live edition.
Great stuff, man.
Good stuff.
How did you do that again, Couz? Do that one more time.
I love
You
it.
guys know what we're going to be talking about tonight. We're going to be talking about this. It looks like impending expansion to the college football playoff, which is come to find out they can do as early as 2026, and there's really nothing that anybody else could do about it from what you're reading. I think that's basically, and I tend to agree with what Couz was saying in that there might be a little of this concern. I think there's a few issues that people have had with the playoff. Overall, I don't know that you had to go this far with it, but we'll just run through let me just run through real quick what the changes are to it. Obviously, they're going to move it to either 14 or 16 teams, which would include 4 guaranteed spots for teams from the SEC and Big Ten. They got 7 spots. They'd moved to 8 this time. They would also give 2 spots each to the ACC and Big 12 as well, along with one for the group of 5, the best group of 5 team, and either 1 or 3, depending on if it's 14 or 16, at-large bids as well. I don't know. There's a couple of different things we want to talk about. A lot of people are saying that this is not good and it may be pushing you further towards separation from it. But to me, I feel like what happened last year when they basically ensured themselves that they can run the whole thing was what it would be I guess that would be the signal that you needed that you may get separation. But Couz, talk to me about it. You're talking about the chicken stuff. I think it's hilarious, by the way. But talk to me about the concerns from a Big 12 fan. Obviously, you covering West Virginia and being as deep as you are into the conference realignment and everything else. Let me know what you think about it.
Yeah. For me, there's 2 sides of the coin here, right? One, from a realistic view, right? I don't think there's a thing we can do about it, right? The 4-4-2-2-1-1 model is probably what's going to happen. And if you're the Big 12, you're in a situation where you may not have a choice but to accept it. And it's very possible that might be the best possible scenario for you at this time, right? But the problem I have with it, and the reason I say that part before I move on is, most years you may be lucky to get 2 in, right? And most years you probably won't get 2 in because there's so much parity in the conference. They're all going to keep beating each other up like we saw last year, right? Yes. But the other side of that coin is I worry that if you continue as the Big 12 and the ACC, if they continue to give the SEC and Big 10 all this power, the more you give them, the more they're going to take from you. And at some point, you've just got to say, look, man, we can't continue to give you guys all this power. But the problem is you've already opened that can of worms when you did it, a year or 2 ago, when you gave them the authority and the power to basically make the decisions about the CFP. You may have just dug your own grave to a degree. And I think that was a really bad decision.
Yeah.
But I think now that you've opened that Pandora's box, you're not closing it, man. You can't put the toothpaste back in the tube. You're almost at their mercy. You have to hope that they are looking out for the good of the entire sport. I have my doubts as to whether they actually are, but you have to hope they are. Greg Sankey claims that he cares about the betterment of the sport. But like I said in my show, though, Jason, even if he does, he answers to the presidents and the chancellors, man.
Sure.
And I don't know how many of them actually do.
How many of those guys actually do? You know what? I was watching that same show that I'm sure you've seen, Ross Dellinger, and along with Pat Forty and what's the other guy's name?
Dan Wetzel.
Dan Wetzel. Yeah.
Yep.
Yahoo Sports.
Yep.
And even those guys were pretty wild and wound up. I don't necessarily blame anybody for being that way. We'll go ahead and go through the rest of what the format change is going to look like. Obviously,
hey, boys,
multiple automatic. Go ahead.
Can you? I was just going to say, can you say revenue?
Yes, the revenue, and see, the revenue here is definitely that was what was changed last year, Coach. So last year, whenever they were basically pushing for a revenue model that they wanted X amount of money down, they had pushback from both the ACC and the Big 12, along with the G5, and they basically said, "Too bad. You're either going to do this or we're going to move along." Correct me if I'm wrong. I believe it's 57% of the total revenue goes to those two conferences.
That sounds about right. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's 57% on that, Coach. And then obviously,
but it's still financial survival, guys. That's bottom line is it's financial survival.
Sure.
Yep.
Although I have a hard time really going with the survival thought of it because of the fact that you are thriving in the college football landscape right now. We've seen it go up and up and up and up. I think that the view numbers in the championship game was down a little bit. That could have been something to do with the fact that they were up against.
That was a shitty fucking night to play the game.
Yeah, playing it on a Monday night was kind of stupid.
That's fucking stupid, and the time. I mean, just the whole game.
Yeah, and I think that people are used to Saturdays for college football. Now, you don't want to go up against the NFL too much, but I think that in this case, you probably could have. College football, people are going to watch college football, period. And especially if it's on Saturday night when they're expecting to do it. But I don't think that you can beat the NFL so much. In the end, here's let me go ahead and finish this format stuff. It would clear the way for SEC administrators to finally make a long discussed move to play 9 regular season conference games. This is something that I'm concerned about as an Oklahoma guy, and would trigger perhaps all 4 power leagues to overhaul their conference championship weekend. This part I'm not sure I love. Now, changes to the playoff would have required unanimity among the 10 FBS conference commissioners and Notre Dame's AD if they were to do it this year. But as part of that SEC Big Ten power move last spring, the power conferences were not only given the lion's share of playoff revenue, but also leveraged themselves full control over the playoffs format after the upcoming season, expected to result in the expansion to either 14 or 16 teams in the bracket, and the top 4 teams in both of the power leagues automatically qualifying for the field. Now, if the conference is elected to implement a 14-team playoff, 12 would automatically qualify with 2 teams each for the CFP for the ACC and Big 12, auto bid for the top-ranked Group of 5 champion and 1 at-large, intended for Notre Dame if it finishes ranked inside the top 14 in the country. If the Irish do not finish inside the top 14, the next highest-ranked team after the automatic qualifiers are selected would receive that spot. Officials describe it as the 4-4-2-2, 1+1 model, with the 2 top seeds getting a first-round bye. I guess the reason for it, and this is what Dellinger was reporting back in January, was that the format would be, its aim is to limit the subjectivity and power of the selection committee, which essentially is to mean they didn't love the fact that Alabama didn't get in over SMU or Boise, and then you get Boise State getting a bye or whatever.
Don't lose 3 games.
Okay. Well, we can talk about that.
Amen, brother.
I agree with you to some extent. The other part I would say to that, though, is this is where you start talking about strength of schedule, though. The other part that I don't think that we've brought up really, though, is that by doing this, they're also looking to, and what they're discussing apparently tomorrow at this meeting would be a scheduling agreement between the two major conferences that would give them even more money, obviously, to continue to kind of dominate the sport. This is the part that I understand people being concerned with. But the part about, when it comes to the way that I don't think that the playoff was broken this year. I think that there was some screwy stuff, right?
Yeah.
I think that auto bidding or auto seeding was the bad thing for most people. I don't think you love the auto seed part. I didn't feel like your G5 champion, there's no way you could justify them getting a bye in the first round. I think that the way that you had the number one team in the country, Oregon, basically getting a bye, but they end up with Ohio State. And even if it had turned out to have been Tennessee, I think that that's a tough road to hoe if you're Oregon, right? And it certainly was with Ohio State. So
the buys are a crock of shit.
The buys are a crock of shit. Now, they would be 2 buys. It would be for the top 2 ranked teams. I don't know exactly how that would work, but essentially what it looks like to me is this would kind of render conference championship weekend even more useless, really, if you want to put it that way.
I think it would be the opposite to a degree. It depends. If you're depends on how they do it. If you're doing play-in games and the conference championship weekend is part of those play-in games, then it has more meaning, in my opinion. But it's going to depend. Now, the teams with the conferences that we get 4 teams, they might.
I was talking about the actual conference championship games. I wasn't meaning like the play-in.
My bad. My bad. No, you're right. You're right. The actual championship games will be meaningless. Yes.
Right. So
they would turn into championship tournaments, basically.
But would they, though? Here's something that I was watching about this yesterday, and it popped into my head, was that thinking about the SEC, I think they have like a 15-year contract with the Mercedes-Benz Dome in Atlanta to say, we're going to play the SEC championship game. Now, you could always make sure that you get both. You could try to do your 2-for-1 or whatever. Mm-hmm. But if they're expecting a championship game every year for the next 15, I don't know that they're just going to walk away from that and say, oh, no, yeah, that's okay. I get it. Yeah, you guys decided what you decided. I don't know. It feels to me like that would be a hurdle for the SEC. But so I don't know that that's necessarily going to happen either. Here's where I'm at, though, with it. And I guess my question to be does it, as a Big 12 member, I think I looked at it last night and I'm saying, okay, so you had 4 teams that tied for the lead in the Big 12. Obviously, you got tiebreakers that ended up. It was Iowa State, Arizona State in the championship game. Mm-hmm. You had another 3 teams that were just 1 game behind that, and 2 more that were just within 2 games, and West Virginia being one of those 2. That's 9 teams that were within 2 games of winning a conference championship. I believe it's one of the more I think it's the most competitive league in the country as far as within itself. Right?
I agree.
You only got 1 team in. I think Iowa State, now they were never going to get a second team in because that gave you a 3rd loss, and they weren't going to put a 3rd loss team in there. With this new format, it would have allowed both of those teams to go in. How do you feel about that part?
That part of it I actually like, because I think, like I mentioned earlier, anytime if you leave it up to the committee, because our conference is so evenly, the teams are so evenly matched for the most part,
right?
From a talent perspective, so much parity, that I think most years you're going to have years like this where your champion's likely going to have 2 losses, and that means you're probably only going to get 1 team in, because a 2-loss Big 12 team is not getting in over a 2-loss Big 10 or SEC team. That's just the way the world we live in right now. And so that second automatic qualifier to me is something you really probably cannot say no to. My issue is just the authority and power that those 2 conferences have now over this whole thing. I don't think the 2 conferences should ever have been given that much power. But now that they have it, you're not taking it back. So you almost have to take what they give you. Now, I would ask for stuff in return. Like if I'm the Big 12, for example, I'm asking them, okay, if you're getting 4 of the auto bids, we only get 2, then I want you to go to 16 teams instead of 14, and add 2 more auto qualifiers, so that 2 more at-large bids, so that we have a chance to get a third team in.
Mm-hmm.
That's what I really, if you really want to try to up the ante, you ask for 3 auto qualifiers, but I doubt you're going to get it. But you can ask, right?
Right.
And guys, I'm going to tell you something. They're not going to go from 12 to 14 teams. They're going to go from 12 to 16 teams. You just hide and watch. That's going to be what's going to happen.
I think it's going to happen too. I think that here's the one thing I would tell you though, and I think it'll go to 16, but I think 16 is probably better for, as Couz was saying, it's better for the Big 12
I think so.
and the ACC, because here's the thing. I don't know that you're going to have the 4th or the 5th ranked SEC team it's certainly not the Big 10. I think that it's a lot more top heavy once you get to that, because their number 4 team was what? I guess it was Indiana last year. So Indiana didn't play anybody all the way through it. But after that, then you got Iowa, who went to 8-4. That was the next one up on the list. So I think that when you start looking at it that way, I think you would have a better chance of getting that third team in, possibly, even looking at the ACC. Now, of course, with Clemson, had it not been for that loss by Miami right at the end, they don't get into the conference championship game. They had just got done playing South Carolina at the end of the season. Their only chance to get in was going to be winning the conference title. They still got 2 programs in, but they could have gotten that third one. I think Miami would have gotten in last season, probably over some of these other ones. In the end, I think the biggest issue, and I think with most of us, was just the seeding. I don't want to see Penn State, who lost to Ohio State, lost to Oregon, getting the easy way into the semifinal round that they got. They played Boise and SMU, which I didn't even understand why SMU got in there either.
BYU beat SMU.
Exactly.
At their place.
Exactly. They didn't have a signature win, Couz. They had signature losses. They had signature losses, if you look at it, right? To me, I don't think that you could do it. I think that was their way. I think if you're a mid-level team that hasn't, and your strength of schedule is as bad as it was, and we look at Indiana, I mean, now this isn't going to be the same way with the Big Ten. Obviously, Indiana had 1 loss, but that's because they didn't play anybody all year except for Michigan. Ohio State, who rolled their asses, right? I thought it was a little weird. In the end, those little few things is what was really broken. But I don't know, to me, and I'm just going to say this as an SEC fan now, Oklahoma's just now getting into the SEC. I'm great and everything with that. I love the fact that they are. I like the future for Oklahoma. But what I will say is, as a Big 12 guy my whole life, I don't want to see you killing off half of the country from having access to this tournament. And I think that if you do, you can lose all of this, because people will lose interest if their team doesn't even have an avenue to get there. If you're a K-State fan, if you're a West Virginia fan, if you're a fan like JJ of Pitt, you want an opportunity to get in.
Yeah.
I do think that this gives you better opportunity than you had before. I think that more years than not, you're going to get 4 and 4 anyway.
Right. That's why I don't understand.
I don't understand why
why they're pushing for the AQs right now, because that's why I did the show about being scared. And obviously I was being somewhat facetious, but
I get it though.
The point is, to me, there has to be a reason that they're wanting to do this right now. Are they concerned, with rev sharing coming up? A lot of people think that might help level the playing field to a degree from an NIL perspective, from the haves and the have not, so to speak. There might be some more parity now, right, with this rev sharing, where there's that cap. And so maybe that, I'm thinking, are the SEC and Big Ten schools a little bit nervous that in 2 to 3 years, some of the Big 12 and ACC schools may catch up with them because of the pair? I mean, look what Texas Tech's doing right now in recruiting and in the portal, man. They're killing it because they have some deep pockets. They're West Texas oil money, man. And you get them the right coach, the right quarterback, the right situation, they could make some noise,
Texas Tech ain't going to do shit.
I knew that was
just telling you.
I knew that shit was coming. I was just
they can spend all the fucking oil money they want. They can go get the best coach. They can go hire whoever they want to, and they are not going to win in football.
And that may be true, Coach. And what's your reasoning though? I'd be interested to hear why you think that.
Number one, they suck. Number two, they think they're a basketball school.
Okay.
And their resources administratively, everything is geared towards basketball.
Really interesting.
And that's what's important to them.
Even with what they've been doing, recently in the portal,
football. Yeah, I'm going to tell you, hey, congratulations, they're killing it in the portal. But I'm just going to tell you, they're not going to be much better next year than they were this year, and they hit a home run in the portal. You just hide and watch.
And it's all on paper at the end of the day anyway, right? You don't actually know what they got until they get on the field. But
yeah,
my point of using them as an example was just to say that it's possible that some of these teams may catch up with them, with the SEC and the Big Ten, because of the rev sharing model. Brings, a little bit more parity anyway. They're still never going to catch up because of the TV revenue money. I get it.
Exactly.
But it might help at least somewhat, quote unquote, stop the bleeding a little bit. I don't know. It's the only thing that makes sense to me as to why they're pushing so hard for this when they don't. To me, there's not that much of a benefit for them.
Right.
I don't know.
Yeah, well, honestly, and that's the point I was about to make. Here's the thing: I don't know that they really honestly, if you take a look at it, you have a better opportunity of making the playoffs as it is. With leaving it a 12-team playoff, your percentage of teams, even if it's 3 or 4, is still higher than what your percentage would be to do a guaranteed at 14 or 16. Definitely at 16. So really, SEC programs, you can call it Alabama, you can call it whoever you want. It actually didn't really help them. That was what they were talking about it at the end of that podcast with Wessel was saying. He goes, it doesn't even make sense because the math doesn't math there for you to have a better opportunity. Now, here's where I would side with the SEC on this. And I'm just going to put it out there in this way. First off, I like the idea that they're going to be playing 9 games. And as a fan who wants to see them, well, it is about time, except that when you look at the strength of schedule, you go all the way through the strength of schedule. All 16 SEC teams are in the top 50 of strength of schedule. 15 of the 16 are in the top 30 of strength of schedule. So the truth be told, it is what it is. Mizzou was the only one that cakewalked their way out of the whole thing, as far as strength of schedule. And they're still in the top 50 just because of who they play. Now, that's with playing in the SEC. So we know top to bottom, that's the toughest league. The point being is you don't play everybody all the time, though. With the 9-game schedule, it's going to be an every other year thing for a lot of guys. They're able to protect a lot of their rivalries, which I think are damn important to the game. Yeah. And it'll allow you to be able to still protect those rivalries between ACC, SEC teams that as well as I do, politics get in the way of that. They're not going to let them stop playing that game in South Carolina between Clemson and South Carolina. Right. Not going to allow it.
Right.
Florida's not going to Florida's not going to allow Florida and Florida State to not continue playing. They're just not having it. Right. So a lot of that stuff gets kind of in, that's part of it that gets in the way. The other part that I would say is when you look at it, going through all of that stuff, if we didn't go with strength of schedules, I'm getting arguments in here about why SMU deserved. They were 8-0 in conference play, but they lost the conference championship and they didn't have a game against anyone outside of conference or inside of conference. Where's their top 25 win? They don't even have one. And it was so important to let them in there because they got beat by Clemson, who also had 3 losses.
Yeah, I think they let them in there. I think they let them in there because they didn't want to punish a team for losing a conference championship game.
Except they did it to Iowa State.
But
they
why?
did it to Iowa State, though.
You got your
but Iowa State wasn't in. But Iowa State wasn't in anyway. Iowa State was already outside of the top 12. SMU was not.
But okay, so that's the real culprit right there. The fact that they're going week to week and telling you where they have them in the rankings. And so you can't make the leap. At the end of the year, we all know who the best 12 teams are. If you're watching it closely, you know who they are. You and me both.
I would
More
debate
times
that.
than not.
I would say you know who the best 8 are, maybe 10. I think that 11, 12, 13, 11 through 15.
Okay, it could get a little murkier the further you go up the
Yeah.
line. Okay, I get that.
Right.
But the point being is, we all know that SMU wasn't going to beat Alabama, it wasn't going to beat South Carolina, it wasn't going to beat Ole Miss. We know that it probably wouldn't have beaten Indiana either, although they might have. You know what I mean?
Hell, SMU couldn't beat off.
They lost the best team they played, who they tied for the lead in the Big 12, but was BYU, and they lost the game at home. I don't know that I thought of BYU as one of the best. That's right. They didn't score a touchdown in the game. I don't even know that I think BYU was one of the best teams in the country. I don't think they were one of the 12 best teams. I think they had their moments that they looked like they could have been. I like Kalani Sitake a ton. We both do, Coach. But I don't know that I believe that they were one of the best teams. I don't. So the fact that you didn't beat them and you didn't even beat Clemson, who I don't believe was one of the best teams in the country either, tells me that your chance to get in was to win that conference championship game. And if Iowa State was in the conference championship game, you punished them for losing it to Arizona State.
Yeah. I mean, but like I said, I think they didn't want to. I think in their head they're afraid. Okay, if we set a precedent here that a top 12 team gets beat in their conference title game and we knock them out, then that's going to make conference championships pointless. And I don't think they wanted to do that.
But what would their ranking have been after that loss, Couz? What would their ranking have been?
Who SMU?
Yeah, to lose to Clemson in that game, neutral site. You're not playing at Clemson or anything like that. You are playing, in Carolina. But
and it was a last-second field goal. I think they took that into account too.
You're still going to drop places in the polls.
You should.
Account.
I'm not
take shit into account. You fucking play from the start of when the clock starts and the clock ends. It doesn't make a damn. I mean,
I agree with you, Coach.
Last-second field goal.
Yeah, I'm not saying. Yeah, I'm not saying I agree with you.
I'm agreeing with you.
Yeah.
But the other thing, I'm telling you guys, the conference championships. And everybody can disagree
with me.
That
should have mattered right there.
Right. But I'm telling you, the conference championships, everybody can disagree with me. But as you all well know, I don't give a shit if you disagree with me, because I'm here to tell you, those things are going to fucking disappear. It's going to be like a magic trick. Conference championships. Voila! No more fucking rabbit out of the hat.
And I think it's a shame.
Be over.
And I think it's a shame.
I love it.
Really? You don't like conference championships anyway?
Who gives a shit about a conference championship?
I think the players do. I mean, I think it still matters to the players to win.
I think you win a conference championship or you don't, but I think that the money, I don't think it's about that. I think it's about money. I guarantee you that's why they're doing it. And
that's exactly what it is.
And look, it's more time on TV. It's extra games that they can put out in front. Mm-hmm. It's just all it is just it's the ability to put content out there, right? It's space.
Absolutely.
Advertising.
Jason.
Don't get it twisted. But here's the deal. I don't know that you're really helping anybody out necessarily, but I know you're not hurting anything as far as adding these 2 teams per each conference. And it doesn't allow, I think the G5, I don't know what they're complaining about because I don't know why they even are in it. To be
they're wanting another team. They're not getting another team.
They don't even need to be in the damn thing.
They can want all they want to. Here's the one thing about it is the screw up part of it was this. I think for all the love that everybody's given Brett Yormark, for all the love that people have given Jim Phillips, what the fuck were they thinking to not say, fuck you, we're not going to just go into to where we have no say whatsoever over what you do. Go ahead and go on your own and see how that works out for you.
Yeah, I think they should have done that, but it's easy for us to say right sitting where we're sitting, not in the room looking.
Well, I don't know that it was just about them. Obviously, it was the presidents that pay their asses that made that choice.
Right. True.
But I think you had to do it in order to not have it the way that it is. And I don't think that the SEC Big Ten could afford to do that and just be cut off from everybody else. Because look, 36 teams, 38 teams, that ain't going to cut it. Or it'd be 36 teams, wouldn't it?
36.
Yeah, they should have.
Teams, actually.
They should have at least said, okay, we'll give you the more revenue, but we're not giving you control, or we'll give you control but not revenue. They're just giving them it's like they're just giving them everything they want. Right. And I'm not going to sit here and try to debate that those two leagues aren't better, because I think they've proven they are.
That's not even the conversation we're having.
But so I have no issue with them getting something, right? A little, but I mean, it's like they just keep asking for more and more
and more and more.
And it's like, I just don't, at the end of the day, the law of diminishing returns is going to take effect, in my opinion.
Yes.
And it's going to hurt everybody in the long run, even them.
Right. But see, and everybody keeps talking about the conference championship. You can't. They were 8-0 versus 7-2 against the Big 12. You guys are acting like they played the same damn schedules, folks. This is the problem that you have, and this is where you're going to end up getting a lot of people from the Big 10 and the SEC saying, "Why in the fuck are we playing everybody in our conference? Why are we going to play a 9-game schedule whenever we do it, or we played an 8-game schedule? We only had a few teams that only had 2 losses, or had 2 or less losses. We had 3 of them, and we don't get in over a team with 2 losses that didn't play anybody, that doesn't have to play a conference schedule the way that we do. Now, the Big Ten has less of an argument to make on that, because we know that's, I mean, again, number 5 is Iowa there. But, and we know that they limited their best teams' exposure to each other. I don't care what anybody says, they did in the Big Ten. Yeah. The SEC didn't. And the SEC hasn't gone to 9 games because they were worried about just what happening this season.
Here's what's going to happen, though, Jason, and this is the part, as a Big 12 fan, I have a really bad heartburn about. Okay, one of the things.
Yeah,
we're going to have it when this if or probably when this new format goes into effect. They're going to have these play-in games, these conference championship weekends instead of conference championship games, whatever. And you're going to have a setup. For example, you talked about Iowa, and who was number 6 in the Big Ten? Illinois, maybe.
Illinois, yes.
Okay. They're going to have 4 automatic qualifiers. They're going to say, okay, Ohio State, Oregon, you're automatically in. Right. Okay, you get 2 spots. The other 2 are up for grabs. We're going to have number 3 play number 6. Number 4 play number 5. The 2 winners play to see who, right? The 2 winners get in.
Correct.
Whatever. What happens if Illinois beats Penn State in that regard? So Illinois, the number 6 team in the Big Ten, gets a playoff spot.
I think that's cool and everything.
But you're going to have
4 losses.
But you mean to tell me they're better than a 2-loss BYU or a 2-loss Colorado or even a 3-loss Clemson? I don't buy that, man. Or a 2-loss Miami or whoever.
Listen, we know that the Big Ten isn't big on scheduling tough non-conference opponents, bro.
Guys, a 1-game head-to-head, anybody can lose or win over anybody.
Sure they can.
You need to look at the big picture and the whole piece of work. You can't go by head-to-heads. Hell, if we went head-to-head, we wouldn't have even been in the fucking playoffs this year.
Mm-hmm.
But
yeah,
you got to look at the whole picture.
I think you do, and I think that's why the strength of schedule stuff has to matter in some respects, right? It just has to. And
I don't disagree with that at all.
It has to matter, and it didn't matter enough. I mean, we're talking SMU was pushing the hundreds,
exactly.
if not in the hundreds. Indiana was 110th in the freaking country in strength of schedule.
Yep.
Now they had 1 loss. I get it. But I just heard the argument. They were SMU was 8-0 in conference play. So what? They didn't play any of the other top teams in the conference. Not one of them.
That's a hell of a conference.
They didn't play Miami. They didn't play Clemson. They didn't. I mean, I guess they played Florida State. They did play Florida State. That was expected to be one.
They
weren't.
They sucked.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, I think they did that shit because they were trying to make up for the fact that they fucked Florida State over the year before.
Yeah, that I just have a heartburn thinking that you're going to allow an 8-4 number 6 ranked Big Ten team to get into the playoff over an ACC or Big 12 team who has 2 losses and is probably a better team. You know, even whether you look at eye test, whatever, and they're going to get in over them, and that pisses me off.
Sure.
It's not right, man.
Listen, I get it. My only deal is that here's where I'm worried about it. What I'm worried with is that you're complaining. We're complaining about it and stuff like that. But I think it's better than the format is today because of the fact that we saw a 4-way tie for the championship in the Big 12. Those other 2 teams didn't even get a shot to get into the playoff in any way, shape, or form. 2 of those teams should have made it in.
Yeah. No,
2 of those teams should have made it in.
Yeah, that's why I say I see both sides of this. I do like the idea that they get 2 guaranteed spots.
It does open it up for you.
Right.
And it actually gives you less of an opportunity if you're a SEC or Big Ten team to get one of your teams in, even though you're going to get your 4 all the time. Now, the other part that's the reason they want to do it is because, and I'm saying it as an SEC guy, look, they are looking to. They know that Alabama was better than any of those other teams, and so were the other 2. You know, and although I still say South Carolina, I don't want to really hear shit from them because they didn't have a big win either. They had, you know, their biggest win was probably over Clemson. Big deal. You know what I mean? So to me, I didn't love that part. But I also didn't love the fact that Boise's going to get a bye. I think that could have fixed it. If you just fixed the auto seeding stuff, you could have fixed the biggest part of this, right?
The majority.
Moving forward. In the end, I would rather have seen you get 2 teams in. I think that the Big 12 deserved 2 teams a lot more than the ACC did.
Yeah. I mean, I agree. I'm obviously going to agree with that statement. But again, your team who was number 1 lost in the conference title game, and it screwed everything up. But even if that being said, if that had not happened, Big 12, Alabama or Ole Miss would have probably got that slot. It wasn't going to the Big 12, unfortunately. You know what I mean?
That's what I mean. This gives you that spot. No matter what, you were going to get that spot.
Yeah, I do like that aspect of it. I do, it doesn't sit well with me that 2 conferences are making the decisions for everybody, and that's the
biggest problem.
Get used to it, brother. Get used to it.
That's the biggest problem, I think. And I can't believe that you don't go to war over that and hope that even like the government or, you know, the Supreme Court has got to go to court, whatever, that you don't step in and get some kind of alleviation from that if you're the Big 12, if you're the ACC.
Here's my argument to that. The Big 12 and ACC are trying to separate themselves from the G5 along with in some regards, right? As far as the autonomy,
they have to try to keep up with the other 2.
And if they start filing suits, then that opens them up. The G5 is going to say, well, screw you. We're suing you then because you're trying to become autonomous 4 and leave us behind. So I think you got to be careful there. You don't want to bite your nose off, spite your face.
I would agree with you there. It never goes well when it gets to litigation time. I even think that the threat, though, of doing that with the SEC and Big Ten might have changed their tune a little bit. The facts are, maybe. I think that this was brought up too on that show with those guys was that, hey, in the end, what really happened was when they had the alliance and the Oklahoma and Texas are going and they got pissed off. And so they said no to changing the playoff structure then. And the playoff structure that they were wanting to move it to was better than what you landed on for upcoming. Right, it was only going to be 3 guaranteed for both conferences for the big boys, and it would have given you a better opportunity. When they didn't do that, it pissed off the Big Ten and Greg Sankey and the SEC, and now they still aren't forgetting about it.
See, it didn't piss off the Big Ten was part of the alliance. See, I've heard on 2 different shows now.
Well, but it did though.
Claiming the Big 12 was part of the alliance. They were not part of the alliance. Bob Bowlesby was actually on Greg Sankey's side in that discussion.
Right. No, I know that.
That's another reason I'm frustrated is because now.
No, it's the ACC and the PAC were the ones that screwed that up.
And the Big Ten.
except for the Big Ten, what did they do? They sweezled right back out of it because it wasn't very long until they had
USC and UCLA
and screwed that little alliance they had going by taking USC and UCLA. It started all of this. Everybody wants to blame it on the Big 12 or Oklahoma and Texas, and that started it. But it was already been going on forever. Bob Bowlesby had been asleep at the wheel for a damn sight long.
Yeah, and I won't argue with that. But as far as the college football playoff expansion, he was for that. Bob Bowlesby was he and Greg Sankey were on the same side when it came to the conversation.
I know they were.
But and talking about that's one reason I get frustrated with Sankey and the SEC in this conversation, because I keep hearing him say, or in quotes he puts out there in articles, that the original playoff was supposed to be for 5 equal conferences, and now we don't have 5. Well, no, Dub, we don't have 5 equal conferences because you took teams from the other conferences. So don't blame it on that. You're the one who did it. It's your fault we don't have the 5 equal conferences. And again, I'm not saying, I just don't get it.
You guys are talking that smack, huh?
I've enjoyed it. It's been
Coach,
great.
I know you got to get,
Going to go watch my grandson play. I just want to say one thing. Hey, great seeing you, Couz. And great seeing you, Jason.
Hey, it's good to see you too, Coach. It's been a couple of weeks.
I'm just going to say one thing before I go. From my perspective and my team's perspective, we don't give a shit who gets in the playoffs, because we will be there. So y'all fucking decide who else is going to be there.
It actually helped Notre Dame, because Notre Dame can actually get one of those 2 byes.
Oh, Notre Dame's coming out of this thing smelling like a freaking rose, man.
Absolutely, it didn't hurt nobody there.
And we're going to take our $20 million from this playoff season and distribute it well as well. So life is good. Life is good, boys. Go Irish. See you guys.
See you, Coach.
Have a good one.
Love you. Bye-bye.
Coach Roy Ball. Love having him here with us as always. Honestly, when it comes to that, the people that believe that Notre Dame is going to ever have to join a conference, I don't know what you're doing. I don't know what you're thinking about. They made $95 million this year.
That's crazy.
From their own television deal, and the
CFP,
the CFP plus what they've got going on with, and that's not even including the ACC, what they get from them for being partial members of the ACC, for the other stuff. That doesn't include that. Doesn't include the $10 million a year that they get anyway from the school. It doesn't include the $10 million that they get from Under Armour every year. It's they've got it made, man. So it is what it is. They're never going to move. And I was trying to tell somebody this yesterday. Here's my question. I guess I don't know. It feels like we've gone. The genie's out of the bottle. You're not putting it back in. Toothpaste out of the tube.
Yep, agreed.
What can you do at this point now, especially now that they've given this power over to them? What do you do in the Big 12? What do you do in the ACC?
I think the Big 12 and ACC need to do, and maybe they are behind the scenes, but I think they need to do a better job of working together, do their own scheduling agreement. Hell, even merge if you have to. Do something to try to power in numbers type thing. You're never going to catch up with them. The only other thing you can do is win games and win championships, Jason. You've got to get in that football. You've got to get in that playoff. You've got to win games, and you got to have 1 or 2 teams that win a national championship, hopefully multiple times, so that you can say, hey, look at us, we're champions too, right? Because if you can't do that, it's going to be hard to have any leverage in any negotiation, to be honest.
Yeah. I don't think that there is no leverage. I mean, you've seen right there that they discuss it with them. They bring them in and they all discuss it. But in the end, they have every opportunity to just make the decision on their own. All right, here's what I would say, and you know, I was on with Rawhide the other night, and I've seen him talking about this before in the past. Here's where I think that the SEC and the Big Ten have to be careful, though. Again, when you alienate more than half the country, this is when all of a sudden you could be the murderer of college football. And we could talk about who's going to win what and all this. And guys, you know what? I understand the money is going to continue to grow, and I think that the gap is going to continue to get wider, just like everybody else does. That's not the point we're trying to make here. By doing all of this and in the name of money, when you alienate half of the country or 3/4 of the country, if you look at it that way, because I think it could be 3/4 of the country or more overall. Now, most of the big brands are, yes, in these two conferences, but you got to be careful because the rest of it, you still have a large pocket of people that love watching this sport and are going to be there for it as long as they believe that they have an opportunity. Now, whether or not you really have an opportunity doesn't have nothing to do with it right here. It's the perception of having access.
Having a seat at the table.
That's right. You have to have a seat
at the table. Yeah.
Yeah.
And look, I've said on my show and even on Twitter, right now, if I'm a fan of a Big 12, ACC, or G5 team, we shouldn't watch we should not watch any SEC or Big 10 football games ever, if we can help it, in my opinion. Not sure if that helps anything, but TV eyeballs is driving a lot of these decisions, man. And if we've got to do what we can do to support our conferences and our teams. Again, you got to hope some of these teams win some games, win some championships, and hopefully this House settlement, if it goes through, will somehow even the playing field at least a little bit, as much as it can be, right, at this point. And we get some parity back in college football, because right now, man, it's just the gap, like you said, the gap's getting bigger.
Yeah. What do you say to this where they're saying that the Big 12 has the weakest strength of schedule?
I think the ACC had the weakest myself, personally.
Yeah, I think you can go in and find it, but it depends on how there's different people that quantify that in different ways.
Especially with Florida State being down, like they were. If Florida State had been good, I might not say that, but I mean,
yeah, I don't know.
Your best two teams were a 2-loss SMU team who lost to the third place team in the Big 12 on their own field. And you lost, and Clemson, who was a 3-loss team, basically. And I mean, I guess you could maybe argue Miami should be in that conversation too, but they didn't play anybody either. And 2 of their wins were controversial calls that really shouldn't have went their way, some would argue. Virginia Tech and I think it was Cal, maybe. Anyway, 2 of the games they won, they really shouldn't have won. So I don't know. It's just I think the ACC had the weakest conference schedule. Now, that could change this year, you know. I don't know, but I thought the ACC was pretty weak last year, personally.
Yeah, I agree. I think the fact that, you know, when in Clemson losing to South Carolina wasn't, they said they were the hottest team. It's because the last 6 games they didn't play anybody good. It was front loaded on their schedule.
Mm-hmm.
You know?
Yeah.
Big deal. You know what I mean? It's like, okay. And then they turn around and lose to Illinois. You know what I mean? Come on, man.
Yeah.
And Illinois, you can't. And look, I don't think that the Big Ten is as good as they act like they are.
No, I don't either. Big Ten is extremely top heavy, man. I mean, you've got Ohio State, Oregon, Penn State, Michigan, sometimes Michigan. Last year they weren't very good.
Right, but I mean,
and then you have nobody. Then you have a bunch of mediocre teams,
real quick, right? Michigan's a power program.
They are absolutely, yeah. They're a blue blood program. But after you get past those 4, you have a bunch of mediocre to bad teams.
Absolutely, yeah. You start talking Minnesota and Wisconsin lately, and
Indiana, Northwestern.
Yeah.
Even USC is not as good as
USC's not there yet, and maybe they have the ability to get there. Maybe they don't. We hadn't seen them do it in a long time.
No,
you know.
I don't know that the Lincoln Riley move is working.
Shocker there, I tell you. But that's neither here nor there as far as what I was saying. They haven't done it, and so it makes you wonder. We know they're having issues with their NIL and some of that kind of stuff as well. I don't know that you're ever really gonna. And I think that somebody said it in the comments here that parity's gone. I think parity's never been a thing in college football.
Not
I'm
really.
sorry.
Not really. Not really. But I
I think
think
you got the illusion of it at times.
Yeah, I
It
mean, it hadn't
moved
been.
around who was the better program, right? But parity
Yeah.
has never been a thing.
No, I mean, that's why we have what do we have 8 to 10 blue blood programs of all time.
Yeah.
Who have won the majority of the national titles. You know, Ohio State, Texas, Alabama, Georgia. I don't even know if Georgia would be in that category. Honestly.
No, Georgia's not in it. No, it would be Oklahoma,
Texas,
USC, Texas, Nebraska,
Ohio State,
Alabama, Notre Dame.
Yeah.
You know,
I don't even think you put Penn State
Michigan.
and Penn State's not in it.
Penn State's not a blue blood. No.
Yeah, you got to put Michigan in it. Yeah, Michigan's a blue blood.
in it. Yeah.
Yeah. So I mean,
but I mean with Penn State, and when Penn State they won at one time when Joe Pa got there.
Yeah. I mean, they're a great. Then you have another tier where you have the programs like the Penn States, but point being,
well, yeah, I mean, you can't. It's not about being a blue blood at this point. It's what can you do now?
Correct.
You know, Oregon can be there and do what they're going to do because of the way they recruit. I know they haven't won a natty for you USC fans that want to shit on Oregon. I don't care. They've been playing for them, and they're in that
conversation.
The now conversation.
Correct.
Georgia,
they're a new
now
blood.
conversation.
Yep.
FSU, now conversation. You know what I mean?
Yep.
Clemson, now conversation.
Yep.
Same thing.
I agree. Agreed.
So, you know, whether or not, I mean, you know, some people will have Tennessee as a blue blood. I don't know that I do, but some people do. It just depends. But none of that shit really matters. It's about whether or not, what can you do for us right now?
Yep.
Do you have the brand power to get those players that you got to get to go win a national championship? And I don't think that there's a whole lot of programs that can say yes to that answer.
No, I saw somebody put in the chat earlier, 20 teams. I don't even think it's 20. I think it's more like 10 to 15, if that. Maybe 10.
Yeah.
Every year that has a shot. What do you think?
Yeah, maybe. I mean,
8,
10. 10 is probably pushing it a little bit.
And there are probably, out of that 10, 8 to 10, you're going to have 3 or 4 of the same teams every year. Some of the ones we just mentioned.
Oh, well, and I was just talking about this past season. I mean, I think overall, I think that you probably have that can win a national championship. You may have a few more than 10, right? You're talking about teams like Florida State can put it together enough to be able to win a natty. We've seen it happen recently, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Your Miamis could. I don't know that they will anymore, but it could. Let's just say maybe. You know, obviously Clemson and those guys. But so I think that there's a few that are in that. You know, I would say that yes, USC could. Yes, Washington probably could. You know, we'll see if they do or not. But overall, yeah, it's not more than probably, I don't know. Yeah, 15 tops that could theoretically in the future win one. More than likely. Now,
but have the resources to do it.
And that's what it's all about. The resources, and that's what, man, I don't know how that really gets better from here. And that's always where I've come from. It's not that I want it this way. It's not that, I mean, I'm glad that I'm an Oklahoma fan, and you know, I'm always going to be proud of being an Oklahoma guy. But the fact is, it doesn't mean that this game has really changed for the better, which it really just probably hasn't.
No, we say that though, Jason. We talk about the resources, and I got to thinking. I'm thinking about some of my own conversations and videos I've done.
Mm-hmm.
Clemson didn't have the resources to do it either, but they did it. So, if
somebody's got the resources there, or else they wouldn't have done it.
Well, they do now because they started winning. That's what I'm getting at. Is, I mean, they still had a decent amount of resources. Don't get me wrong, but they didn't have. You know, they weren't Nebraska or Ohio State or Alabama or any Texas A&M. You know what I mean? But they got the right coach at the right time, who was able to build the right culture, and they won a couple natties with that. Now, will they do it again? I don't know. But my point being is, it's going to take something like that. That's one of my arguments. Why will West Virginia win a national championship? Maybe not. But if Clemson can do it, why can't West Virginia do it? That's my argument, right? But it's those are going to be rare, though. You know what I mean? Most years it's going to be your Ohio States and your Texases and your Alabamas and whoever. It's going to be those guys. Michigan.
Yeah, I think it's tough. And Immaculate, you're saying it's funny because Arizona State was a bad ref call away from beating Texas and going to the semifinals. What do you get for winning the semifinals? It's just a shock. I'm not taking shots at anybody here. I don't think either one of us are taking shots at anybody here, Immaculate. That's not what we're saying. We're getting it in the end. You have to show me where any of these teams have won the championship outside of Clemson that weren't a blue blood or weren't one of these, even the new bloods or whatever. You have Florida State. Who else other than them has won a national championship in the last 30 years?
Auburn. Do you count Auburn and LSU as new blood as blue bloods?
Some people definitely count Auburn as a blue blood, and LSU would be more of a new blood, I think. But some people, I don't know. It depends on what they're definitely in SEC.
They've won two natties in the past
power conference. Absolutely, yeah.
So yeah,
they're in these power conferences. So in the power conferences, sure, okay. So I'm sorry we didn't mention Iowa in it. Could Iowa do it? Probably. Because of the money, because of what they can do money-wise. Now, you have to attract the right coaches there and the right players there, and I think it's tough to do.
Yeah, I think a lot of it too is, some of these schools are just hard to recruit to, man. Places like West Virginia, Iowa, Arkansas. How do you attract recruits to these places when you're competing against, for example, if you got a kid who's picking between, I'm going to pick a school in UCF in West Virginia, and you got a kid who's from Florida, likes the beach. If the NIL and everything else is the same, most of the time they're going to pick the school at the beach. You know what I mean? It's just, and those are the types of things that schools like mine are, they have to be extra. The coaching has to be at another level for a team like West Virginia to have a chance. That's why I like them bringing in Rich Rod, because I think you need somebody like that does something different, unique, bring something different to the table.
He's definitely we know what Rich Rod did when he was at West Virginia. Now he hasn't replicated that really outside of West Virginia. He's won. He was winning at Jacksonville State. I still think Rich Rod's a hell of a coach.
Yeah, and he did good at Arizona too before he got into some controversy. He was winning 8 games a year.
He was
at Arizona, which was not not an easy place to win.
No, it's not an easy place to win. They never win. They never win. Right. They don't. You know what I mean? It's one of those deals. Look, and Oklahoma Ganja Grower says, I'd say most years 5 to 8 teams with a legitimate shot. No, that's what we were saying to start with. Overall, in any particular year, if you've got 8 teams that are capable of winning it, that's a lot. I think it's going to spread itself out to the point that, and that's the other thing, it spreads itself out and around. I guess you could say that it could move itself around to anybody and everybody, and there's a lot of changes that are coming down the road. In the end, allowing the Big Ten and the SEC to have control over the whole thing, which is surprising to me to hear that. It was surprising to me to hear that overall. Allowing that to happen may have been what really kills these other conferences on moving forward, because you're also allowing the Big Ten and the SEC are now having a scheduling deal that they're trying to work out to make more money. Look, at some point there gets to a point that you can't make enough to win. You can't make enough to win.
That's our fear, man. And that's what would you, Jay? And I know
because they're paying players with this money, guys.
I know your team is in the SEC now, but if you could put your Big 12 hat back on a minute,
I am. I'm in it.
How would you feel if the SEC and Big Ten did break away and do their own thing and have their own playoff, and then you had the Big 12 and the ACC basically doing their own thing. How would you feel about that? Do you think that would be a good thing or a bad thing?
Oh, I think it's a bad thing for the sport. I think it's a bad thing for the sport either way. That's what I was saying earlier. I think that what you're doing now is threatening to alienate more than half the country, because most people didn't go to Oklahoma. Most people didn't go to Alabama. Don't give a shit. I know they've got their fair weather fans, their fans that are out there because they're always on television that they say, oh yeah, I'm a Bama fan. That's not everybody. And if you are a true, you follow West Virginia, you could give a shit about Alabama.
Yeah, that's true.
You could care less. So, and I think that matters. It matters in Kansas. If you're a Kansas Jayhawk fan or a K-State fan, you don't give a shit about Alabama or Oklahoma or anybody like that. You don't care. So I think it's a sketchy part. Now, what Immaculate, I'm not getting what you're saying. The Big 12 and ACC are fine. They will have equal votes on the Autonomous Conference, and that board will create the next postseason. That's not true. That's not even true. We just found out that now the CFP is run by the Big 10 and the SEC. They get to make the choice.
Yeah.
I mean, go read the report. That's the facts. And if you think that going from 26 to 31 and not having it and somehow they wrestle it back away from them, how's that work?
Yeah. I don't know if he's talking about the CFP per se. I think he's just talking about the format of the sport as a whole, maybe. I don't know.
Well,
he said postseason.
They can pull away from it is anytime they want to because they are in charge of this playoff format. The only way that you get along is to get along with them. And you should have never given it up if you're those two conferences.
I agree.
You should have never allowed that shit.
Yeah, I agree, man. Because my argument the other day too was this. I was like, okay, they threaten to break away, so you don't want to let them do that, so you give them what they want. Now they may break away anyway, and they've taken more from you in the meantime before they do that breakaway. You know what I mean? So you basically just delayed the inevitable to me.
Right.
That's kind of maybe they won't break away, and I'm not predicting that to happen, but they could down the road.
Yeah, I don't know that they're gonna. I don't think that you can break away if you're them. Now, and I hope that I am wrong. I know this. They're in charge of the damn playoff. In charge of the playoff. Who's not going to want to be in this playoff to be considered the national champion? I don't know. The Autonomous Conference Board, whatever.
Yeah.
What does that have to do with anything?
Yeah, I'm not well versed on that either, Immaculate, so I can't really speak to that.
The CFP is an LLC. Okay, yeah. It's the most important thing. They're liable to break away from the NCAA all the way around when it comes to that stuff.
Yep. Now I will say I do think if there's a breakaway from the NCAA, that the Power Four will be part of that. That's why I don't think you're ever going to see the Big 12 and ACC suing the other two, because they want to be part of that breakaway if it happens, right? But what Jason and I are talking about is competing on the field.
Yeah.
They might be part of the same boards and they might be part of the same structure.
None of that shit matters whenever either you can afford to get the best players in the country to come and play for you or you can't.
Right. But can they win on the field? That's what Jason and I's conversation has mainly been about.
Yeah.
Other than our little rabbit trails we went on. But yeah, it's so yeah.
You can either afford to get the best players or you can't afford to get, because make no mistake about it, it's all about money at some point. All of it. The players went for so long without getting paid, wrongfully, by the way. And now we want to be bitching and complaining about the players when that's not who you should be bitching and complaining about. It never is. They didn't make a single rule. It's not. None of this has been up to them. You know.
I don't know that I agree with Immaculate on that.
I don't agree with him either. It'll replace the CFP. Okay.
Maybe. I do see them forming
we're talking
making decisions
6
with
years from now, or
other sports. Maybe I just don't see, but I don't see the CFP going away. But it could. We'll see.
No.
Why would the SEC and Big Ten want to give up that?
It's got to actually make money.
Why would they give up that power?
Who reported it, Immaculate? Who reported? Because that's not what we're hearing from other sources that are saying other things.
Yeah, I just don't see the SEC and Big Ten ever giving up that power personally. But that's just me.
I don't know that I do either.
I hope they do.
Again, it's not something that I love. This is not something that I'm in love with. And my team plays in the SEC. I don't love it. I don't love it. I think that because you end up losing your ability to keep all of them together.
Yeah.
And I don't know. I think it's not. And I think the longer that the CFP is going on, which just like it is now, the tougher it is to get rid of them. Mm-hmm. Because it's enriching people. And unless you screw it up to where people stop watching it. And that's where I think that you have to be careful if you're the SEC and Big Ten. I think that you need to make sure that, and I think that's why they are allowing the Big 12 and the ACC. They want to give them 2 guaranteed spots and move this up because that keeps them happy. It doesn't mean that you can win the thing, but it does keep it. If you get access, that's all. I don't think there's anything that they can do that's going to make you. It's going to all of a sudden give parity to the game. Yeah, what can you do?
There won't be complete parity. No, there never will. There never has been, really.
No, no.
But teams like West, we gotta. What we have is hope that one day we can win a championship, maybe 1 time or 2 times.
You have to be willing to go and put the money towards it to do it, right, and have the right guys in place. Yeah, you can catch lightning in a bottle. I think. But without the access to it,
it's going to be hard. Very hard. Yeah.
Right. Without access to it, it's hard. I still think in the end, I think that this year and obviously you're going to go off the last thing that you've seen. When you start looking at this season, you can look at all these records, but part of the problem is because we're not looking at actual strength of schedule. You're telling me that they were 11-1 at SMU. I'm telling you that 11-1 isn't the same as a 9-3 in the SEC. It just isn't. It's not the same thing.
That's fair.
And because of that, this is where we are now. Because you went ahead and stuck them in instead of an Alabama or Ole Miss or whoever, doesn't even matter. When you know that they were the better team, they would have beaten the shit out of SMU. We all know that. I want to get one person to argue that with me and be real about it. Can you win it on the field one day? Yeah, 99 times out of 100, we know better than that. No, they don't have the athletes to do it. It just wouldn't have happened. And that's the problem. Either they've got to fix whatever the inner workings are. I don't think they had to go so far as to do what they're doing, just any more than you do.
Yeah.
And any more than we heard Wetzel and Dellinger and man, Pat Forty was pissed off.
Yeah, I heard that. He went on a rant, man. I love it, though, because, as a Big 12 guy, I'm like, yes, man, we need more of this, right? More people speaking out against this crap. And I hope Immaculate's right. I hope it is just a negotiation tactic, man. But I'm afraid that it's not,
Yeah, I don't know that it is. In the end, I think that they did. Overall, I do like the idea of giving the AQs. I don't want A seeds. I don't want automatic seeding. Don't do that part. Wait till you get your 14, 16, whatever it is. Seed them when you get them there. Who's the best teams?
Yeah, I have no issue with that. I don't. The seeding part to me, I don't really lose sleep over it a ton. I have no issue rewarding conference champions, but you don't necessarily have to give them a number 1 seed or a bye. You know what I mean? I don't.
That's what I was saying. That I think the best team is the best team is the best team is the best team. And yeah. I think you know who the best teams are when you get there. Even when Ohio State lost to Michigan, who didn't think they were still one of the top 2 or 3 teams in the country? Come on. We all knew better. We all knew they were better than Penn State because they whipped Penn State's ass.
Yep. Well said. Well, brother, I got to roll.
Yeah. Okay, buddy. Yeah, we're not going to go for too much longer, but I appreciate you coming on, man.
Absolutely.
I
It's
had
been
to get you in
fun.
there after you. I saw that the chicken thing. That was hilarious shit.
I mean,
Man.
I was serious, but that's being facetious at the same time. But
No doubt. No, I get it, man. And I appreciate you coming on. Tell
absolutely.
everybody where to find you, man. I was trying to get some stuff put up there on the screen, but I'll put it in the description for sure.
Yeah.
But tell everybody how to find you.
Yeah, I'm on Couz's Corner on YouTube, where I cover West Virginia. I cover the Big 12, talk a lot about conference realignment, especially in the offseason. I also have a basketball channel that covers West Virginia called Hoops from the Hills, if you're ever interested in that.
Hoops from the hills.
And we got a
I
brand new
haven't seen that.
website on the way. Will be up soon, called wvsportschat.com.
Very
But
cool.
right now, Couz's Corner is really and you can find me on X at Couz, Couz 206.
I'll have all that stuff in the description here in just a bit as well. I appreciate you going and coming on and
Thanks,
giving
man.
us some time today, bud.
It's been fun.
All right,
Enjoyed
buddy.
it. Thanks for
Have a
having
good
me.
one.
You
See you
too.
later.
See you.
Appreciate that from Couz coming on and giving us some time tonight. And I think overall, guys, and I mean, man, I'm not going to sit here and have a bunch of arguments for everybody. I'm not happy about the way that things are any more than anybody else is. And I mean, shit, my team's in the SEC. I don't have nothing to worry about other than what they're going to do when they're in it. To me, I want to see more of this stuff trending the right way, and it doesn't feel like it's trending the right way to me. It just doesn't. It just doesn't. And I think that the fact that Brett Yormark and Tim Phillips gave them that power to make all the rules in the format and get the amount of money that they got is a little ridiculous. And of course, you know that came from the president, so it's not necessarily just Yormark and Phillips, but I would say that's bullshit. Yeah. BYU's strength of schedule was 9th in the nation, said Shonsky. I'll get to some of you guys' comments now here. Yeah, there's always going to be something to complain about. Parody. How do you figure that there's going to be parody? Who's telling you that there's going to be parody? That's a pipe dream. It's silly talk. Now, Shosky, you are saying that ESPN steps in. They said they don't like all the auto qualifiers, so it doesn't feel like that they're super excited about that part. But they don't. Again, this is going to be up to the conference commissioners and those presidents at those two big conferences. How do we know that? Because the SEC had a dreadful showing in the CFP this year against Ohio State. Everybody had a dreadful showing against Ohio State, Spangler. They lost to the SEC teams, lost to the teams that played for the national championship. What are we talking about? You're okay putting more deserving team over the best team. I don't understand that. I don't understand that part. Ninth graders are being paid. Yeah, there's definitely, hey man, there's some stupid sides to all of this stuff, man. You can't because of the fact that you've got some bad actors that do stupid shit like that. That you can't. That doesn't allow you to just. You can't just not pay the players because you got some dumbasses that are paying ninth graders. You just can't. That's the bottom line is that this is where we are. You should have been paying these guys a long time ago. You should have gotten a handle on it a long time ago. And none of these players are in charge of any of it. If the Power 4 broke away, I see if you do that, I think that's what you're looking to do is have a Power 4 breakaway. That's where I'm at on it. Because that's you know, that's higher. That's a higher amount of what it is. When you start looking at the group of 5, you know, it's not the same level of football. Somebody said something about it today on, I want to say it was Crane and Company. They were talking about nowhere else would you put a heavyweight, like in boxing, you're not going to put a heavyweight fighter up against Floyd Mayweather. Why are we doing it here? Well, because somebody's, you know, that's right now, that's the only money that's out there. But I don't think that you need to be putting heavyweights up against, you know, middleweights or lightweights or any of that kind of stuff. And I think that that's what you have with the G5 overall. I feel like you could find a way. People have actually overrated the quality football that is played at the college football level. Maybe throughout the country, but I don't know what you're saying to that. I don't know what that means. That's ridiculous. That's ridiculous. It is a big gap. It is a big gap. Tell me which one of those. Okay, let's go Georgia, Tennessee, Alabama, Ole Miss, Texas. Which one of those teams was SMU going to be good against? Which one of them? Hell, throw South Carolina in there. The answer is none of them. They couldn't even beat Clemson, who couldn't beat South Carolina. South Carolina beat Clemson and won the ACC. Yeah. It's you're saying it's not a big gap. You know it's a bigger gap than what you think it is. And you know what? We've seen it we saw it in the 14 playoff too. We saw it in the 14 playoff with where Oklahoma was getting drugged when they got there. Because you're not okay, Shonsky. The LD I shouldn't even have to. I don't have to make this explanation for you why you can't get the players to compete. You do compete to an extent. How many kids are going to come in there, money or not, and go by the honor code? No drinking, no sex, no none of that kind of stuff. It's tough. You know it, and I know it. The money's been there all along. You're going to tell me that they haven't been paying players all along? We're acting like this is the first time that they've paid players. Stop it. Stop doing that. Stop doing it. And we want to start talking about that stuff. It's the same at Notre Dame. Notre Dame, though, they've relaxed some of their restrictions as far as getting in. They have an honor code too, but their blue blood status is allowing it more. And I don't know what they're doing over there. But it's been harder for them. They haven't won one in since the 80s, since 1988. Mm-hmm. They can't. They can't. Thanks there, Charles. Don't care what Horns fans say. Care what any of them say, really. I'm not hating on any of them. I'm just saying, I'm just telling the truth. That's the hard part. You can't drink coffee, alcohol, whatever. There's so many things that it's restrictive there. You have to be able to look past some of that, because not everybody, that takes away a large percentage of the best players in the country from your ability to get them. That's why, Chauncey, you know better than that. Oh, let's see. I just now saw that, Bishop Frank. Where's Rawhide? You guys can jump on if y'all want. Come on. I'll send it to both y'all right now. I just now saw that, man. So y'all pop in if y'all want to. All right, let's see. Hey man, everybody's well. I've got a bunch of you cold suckers out there. I know it's. Did I see what Neilio said in here? It was like -10 up there. Oh, damn it! Is that what he was saying? It's cold, bro. You hit the like by accident. Appreciate it, guys. Yeah, make sure you do hit the like, man. Y'all gonna beat me up over what we're talking about. I didn't make any of these rules either. At least hit the like button for it. Let's see. Let's see what we got. 19 likes, bro, for real? Come on now. We've had 200 plus, 250 plus people in there. We got 19 likes. That's messed up. You're definitely limited. That's the point I'm trying to make. You're limited. It's not just about money. I agree that you got plenty of money at LDS. Now -1. Jesus. That's too much. That's too much. Won't be over 30 till Saturday. Ugh. Hey, man, we may have pissed God off for sure. I think people have pissed God off lately because it's been crazy throughout the whole damn country. Wild. Even down south, it's been getting cold, cold, cold. I appreciate it. I appreciate it. Okay. They got the #1 basketball recruit. That's good. He's probably got, look, man, I'm not going to sit here and tell you that they can't get players. I'm telling you that they're not going to get enough of them to win the national championship at BYU. Just don't see it happening. Sorry. It's tough. Brian Sandlin, what's up, man? Good to see you. It's been a while. Guys, let's not get crazy about that stuff. Don't say stuff about the religious stuff, folks. Come on now. I didn't say you can't get recruits. I said you're not going to get enough of them. And I'm not even hating on any of that kind of stuff. I'm just telling you it's tough. The money's there. The money's there. But there's not a whole lot of people that look, the LDS church isn't bigger than every other church out there. It's just not. There's not just the honor code, but sometimes people may not want their kids to be involved in that kind of stuff in another religion that isn't the one that they'd follow. I'm not making this a religious argument. Stop doing it if you are in there. I don't get the BYU thing. We kicked the crap out of them this year, and we were terrible. They weren't as terrible as they seemed. They also beat the crap out of CU. They were better. They weren't as bad. I don't think they're as far away at KU as a lot of people do. A lifetime member. Well, we're not going to do it here, man. I can't. Guys, I think I may just be now getting out of a shadow ban. So I don't want to be talking about subjects that are going to get me banned again. Stop it. Appreciate it. Appreciate it. 18 inches, bro. That's crazy for Oklahoma. Crazy. Ugh. 18 inches of snow. And that equates to taller than houses, snowdrifts, and shit like that, doesn't it, Ganja? Woo, buddy. That's a shit ton. That's crazy. Neilio. It's not funny. Just stop. We're not doing all this. Guys, I'm going to shut it down. We're going to keep on talking about it when I just told you not to. I'm going to shut down the show. Don't do it. I'm asking you not to talk about the damn religious side of it. Nobody cares. What's up, Connor? What's up? I think they're going to be pretty good. I think they're going to be pretty good at baseball. I don't know. I don't know that they're – I think they'll compete to get into the World Series. I don't know that they'll make it into the World Series. How are they doing up there at Oregon State? Always is the same as always? I didn't say you can't get them. I said you can't get enough of them. Can't get enough of them. Yeah, shit. All right. Georgia's the best program in college football. I think it's right up there. You got to hold it together. They haven't won in a few years, so I don't know. I don't think it. Nobody can withstand doing it year after year. It's eventually it runs in cycles all the time. But generally, as we see, it's going to run back and forth between certain schools. Same as always, he says. Good. Well, good. I'm glad. You guys are always got it going on up there. The Beavs. Bro, why are you in here taking shots at me, bro? What are you doing? Man? I'm not even hating on you. Stop it. Knock off your shit. All right, fellas, I'm going to get out of here. I think I've had enough. It's been an hour and a half. Anyway, so I'm going to get some dinner, and we'll be back in the morning on Rise and Shine College Football. I want to thank Couz for coming in, spending some time with us, and giving us that perspective from the Big 12 angle. I can appreciate everybody's feelings about it. You know, I have no problem with it. And I don't even have a problem with BYU or anybody like that. In fact, I think that Kalani Sitake, we've been big fans of his on this show since we went to Big 12 Media Days a couple of years ago. So that's where I'm at on it. I like him. I think that Kalani's one of the dudes, but I just think it's tough. I'm just being a realist about it. Not going to sit here and tell you that, that everybody in the SEC can win one either, because they can't. Not everybody can. It is what it is. We'll see what happens. And I could be wrong about the whole thing. Who's to say? We're not here curing cancer, folks. We're not here curing cancer. But all right, fellas, I'm going to go ahead and get, though, but it's all good. All right, but yeah, I'm going to get some dinner and stuff. I'll be back in the morning either way. Rise and Shine College Football right here on Hall of Fame College Football. Make sure you hit that like button. That's the easiest, cheapest. It's a free way to make sure that you continue getting content from this channel and others. Get over there to Couz's Corner and check him out as well. Bishop Frank's coming in right at the end. Right at the end, bro. I'm out. I'm just signing off, bro. I'm just signing off. Wow. All right, man. Appreciate it. All right, guys. Appreciate everybody coming in. We'll see you all on the next one.